Good afternoon. Welcome to Primetime. Thank you for pausing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have to follow Dr. May's script. Good afternoon and welcome to Primetime at the BU Library. Primetime celebrates learning in and beyond the classroom of Bethel faculty, students, and staff, and is a collaboration between the Friends of the BU Library, Bethel Teaching and Learning, and other officers on campus. We archive videos of past presentations. If you'd like to explore them, you can find them on the BU Digital Library YouTube channel or in the Spark Digital Archive. Coming up on Tuesday, November 18th, all students, staff, and faculty are invited to share their creative writing in the form of poetry, prose, or fiction at an open mic hour. Even if you don't have work to share, come listen to your creative peers and colleagues share from their work. This event will be moderated by Dr. Angela Preston. Today, please welcome Dr. Claudia May, Executive Director of the Center for Community Engaged Learning, as she introduces today's speakers.
Okay, I'm less timid than embarrassed. So, good afternoon. I am not one of those English wigs, that's what I can say. Okay, so it is an absolute delight to see you all here. And it's an absolute privilege to celebrate, I would say, 4 amazing human beings. They're human beings before students, yeah? In their capacity to learn, their capacity to be teachable, their capacity to be innovative and creative absolutely knows no bounds. These are 3 individuals that I deeply respect. Preston Meyers, Hayton, and Laura Hunt are 3 individuals representing various departments across the undergraduate spectrum, are here to recall their experiences of working in Rondo over the summer. It's amazing that you're all here, and it's an absolute privilege to accompany our summer 2025 community work study employees who worked with an amazing team of individuals, the leadership team of the Urban Farm and Garden Alliance. Can you hold up your hands, please? The Urban Farm and Garden Alliance. Thank you. Okay, so just give them a clap first of all. Thank you. Cherie Cueto is it Cueto or?
You said it right. It's Cueto.
All right. Is the director of the Urban Farm and Garden Alliance. We have Kerry Morgan, who is one of the UFGA's leadership team members, and beloved Megan Finney, who is also one of the co-founders of UFGA, as well as the Children's Garden Initiative. I promised I wouldn't cry, but these are 3 individuals that I deeply respect and value and cherish. The way they pour into our students over the summer is just truly extraordinary. I think the students would say that. I had this whole script, but I just feel to speak from my heart. Just with any kind of work, whether it's in the classroom or on the ground outside, all kinds of challenges, joys, moments of surprise, delight, fun experiences emerge. But we also had to, can you go to, I have to start with our beloved Melvin Giles, who passed away in July. Those of you who did not know him missed out on meeting an extraordinary human being. This is a man who truly was a world leader who connected with world communities, whether in New Zealand, whether in South Africa, whether in Mexico, whether in Japan. It was just, he just had a way of connecting with people. And those of us who knew him would often say, no matter where you went, whether it was in up north in Minnesota, to another country in another continent, you would meet somebody who knew Melvin. This was not an uncommon experience. It was a privilege to work with him closely in the past 3.5 years, although I've known him longer than that. But he was, some people called him Bubble Man. He used to love to blow bubbles. And the bubbles were a way to literally disarm tension and to foster love. It was a reminder not to take ourselves too seriously, but to find ways to be playful and fun, even as so-called adults, because frankly, some of us that are not acting like adults, but that's a whole other discussion, okay? But he loved Rondo. He was a son of Rondo, respected in Rondo. He really put the C in community. He was relational rather than transactional. He saw people for who they were. Some of us went to his celebration of life, and every culture that you could think of, and every hue, every religious belief, every identity was celebrated in that gathering. And so as Maya Angelou would often say, whenever she would speak, she didn't speak alone. She spoke with the legions behind her who enabled her to do what she does. And so it's proper that Melvin is with us. Even though he may not be physically with us, he is with us in spirit. So we thank you, Melvin Giles, Elder Melvin Giles. Purple was his favorite color, those of us who know that. So there we go. So I got my purple on. So and we've got our bubbles. So I want to thank you for that. One more thing I want to say is the students set up, they would garden in many different parts of Rondo, Frogtown, Midway, Summit University neighborhood and beyond. But one of the things that really struck me, I've got a picture of these three sort of hovered around a garden box, and the dirt, there's nothing that you can really see. And Cherie is doing what she does so beautifully as a specialist in gardening, and so she was explaining as well as Kerry and Megan what to expect with the ground, and I remember thinking, I can't even believe that something's going to grow out of this. But weeks later, vegetables and flowers crammed those garden boxes, and I was reminded again that nothing happens without partnership, at least nothing meaningful. And sometimes we look at something, we don't realize in many ways what a gift life is until we see it maybe evolve in ways that we can recognize or marvel at its beauty. And with that, I want to thank a number of people, because this initiative that is brought together with the Center for Community Engaged Learning and the Urban Farm and Garden Alliance couldn't happen without a number of people. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Dr. Julie Finnan, Associate Provost for Teaching and Learning, Dr. Barrett Fisher II, who's the Interim Dean of the College of Arts, Sciences and Education, the staff of Academic Affairs, our beloved Bethel Administrative Assistant, Susie Nelson, our major financial contributor, Jack Ward, President of Good Helps, Inc., who all of these individuals and more work behind the scenes to enhance the work of the Center for Community Engaged Learning. I also want to thank Anne Gannon, Administrative Assistant for the Library, who also continue to serve our community so beautifully. I want to thank our partners, many of whom are here, who continue to show us such such love. And again, I want to thank our neighbors, the neighbors that we don't often see on this campus, but we get the privilege to see on a daily basis. These are people who are consummate educators, powerful wisdom bearers, resilient, innovative, and above all, generous in love. So with that, I introduce our first person who's going to speak today, and that is Dora Hunt.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming, whether you're here intentionally or you just happen to be studying in the library and you're overhearing this right now. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Laura Hunt. I'm a senior English and philosophy major here. This was my first summer on the UFGA team, and it was such a wonderful experience, and I'm so excited to share. So I'm going to break this up into two parts. The first is going to be what I learned about and from the gardening experience in the UFGA, living close to the land and tending gardens, all that stuff. So first, I feel like something I really took away was the power and the beauty of living in a process and living through a season. And a way that this was illustrated to me was through the pickle garden. We got to tend a lot of gardens in the Frogtown, Rondo, Midway area, but a really special one was the pickle garden. And that was because we got to pick out all of our own vegetables to plant, and we all kind of came up with this idea to plant all the vegetables that you would use in making a jar of pickles. So cucumbers, dill, we also had some pickles and onions in there. And the process of planting the pickle garden and watching it grow was a little rough at first. First off, because some of the plants were very resistant to growing, and the rabbits in the area really enjoyed the dill. So there was some rabbit pressure there. But eventually, with a lot of care towards this garden and a lot of waiting, we got our jar of pickles. Sometimes. And it did take a long time, but once they started growing, we were up to our ears in these mini cucumbers. We were like fighting as to like who needed to take them home for the day because we had so many pickles. And I think these days it's really easy to just think that everything that we could possibly buy in terms of food is just at our fingertips. It's so easy to get anything that we want, how we want it, as soon as possible, either by ordering it on Amazon Prime or going to the grocery store. And being able to plant food and watch it grow was just a really beautiful process to be a part of. And so much more rewarding to get pickles this way than to just go and buy them at the store. And this is another garden that we tended. This is the Victoria Rondo Community Garden, and this was a picture of this raised bed at the very beginning of the year. And that is what it eventually grew into, which was just so exciting and beautiful. This sunflower was actually a residual one from the season before, and we eventually had to compost it, which was so sad. So the sunflowers in the second photo are actually ones that we grew from seed, which was just really amazing to watch it go from this tiny little seed to those beautiful flowers. And Cherie took that photo, so shout out Cherie. These are two pictures of these garlic bulbs that we harvested from Cherie's garlic bed while she was gone. And they just astound me every time I look at them. I just think that there's so much beauty in these bulbs of garlic. I mean, like, you see these at the store all the time, but just looking at it with the full stalk and just the dirt on there and the tendrils, just like so beautiful. Isn't that amazing how beautiful garlic can be? I've also learned a lot about invasive species. I fear that there are so many invasive species. These particular pictures were from when we worked really hard to dig up this mulberry root in one of the beds that we had ripped up a bunch of thistle from. And it took about 3 days. We tried just about every farming instrument you could possibly use to get this mulberry root out of the bed. We tried shovels, we tried a root extraction, we tried wrestling it out of the ground with our bare hands. And eventually we got it out, but it was just this really interesting, cool lesson. Invasive species aren't native to the ecosystems, and humans obviously have a really big role in doing that, and working really hard to get it out and restore the ecosystem back to what it would normally be was just really interesting lesson to learn. Not pictured were the devious cabbage moths that we would see everywhere. Every time that we would see one of these cabbage moths, Preston would get so mad that we would have to hold him back. So, but yeah. And then just another really sweet thing that I learned from gardening was just learning to notice the really small, beautiful, simple things that there are in gardens. We learned a lot about pollinators from the community educators, and that is a little bee on a pepper plant, I believe. And just when you get close to these plants and you just learn to tune in to the little things, there's just so much beauty that you wouldn't normally notice. So that's a caterpillar. I don't know what kind of caterpillar it is, I'm sorry. And then that is an echinacea plant, and there are some bees on there, you can't really see them, but the flowers are just pretty in themselves anyways. And then yeah, these are two more pictures. One of those is a cherry tree, and that wasn't from any of our gardens, but we visited a community orchard, and I was just so struck by how beautiful it was. And that is a sunflower sprout, which you might be like, okay, it's just a tiny little sprout, but it's so exciting when you actually plant the seed to watch it sprout from the ground, so yeah. And then I just want to talk here for the second half about what I learned from the community and the community educators. So one of the foremost ways that we were involved with the community was in the Aurora St. Anthony Peace Sanctuary Garden, where we would hang out with the kids from the community on Wednesdays in the afternoon, and we would plant stuff with them, we would make a little snack, and this was just such a wonderful experience because getting to hang out with the kids was so much fun. I grew up in the suburbs where we had a ton of green spaces, and it was just really special and really cool to learn from these kids that don't have that many green spaces and being a part of it for them, and also just getting to hang out with them because they're so fun and they said so many funny things. And the second picture is of what it would look like when I would drive my car up and there'd just be like this beautiful bush of flowers that would greet me. So yeah, the Peace Sanctuary Garden was a really special part of being involved with the community. And the celebrations. So we had two major celebrations in the summer season. The first one was the Peace Celebration, which is the photo on my left. And in that celebration, we weren't necessarily organizing it, but we were volunteers. And so that was like our first experience kind of like getting involved with like making an event for the community, and that was really cool. And then the National Afternoon Out was planned mostly by us and some other community members. And that was really cool because we realized how dependent we are on the community and how much we need them to like bring this whole thing together, both for volunteer work and tabling, as well as donating food. And if you see that little, it's actually not little, that big tub of baked beans there that was donated by someone, and we were so eternally grateful. So being able to be a part of the celebrations and depend on the community and hang out with them and learn from them was also so awesome. And then now I kind of want to focus on witnessing the impact of Melvin's life. So obviously this was my first season at the UFGA, and Melvin passed away in the middle of it. And so I didn't get to know him as well as the other interns on the UFGA team. But I did really get to see how he impacted the community and the people around him. And it was just so, so beautiful. There were so many purple flowers that got planted in this particular garden. And seeing the way that people gathered together just to support each other and grieve was really special, and I feel like it taught me a lot about what it means to live a meaningful and impactful life. Melvin certainly embodied that. He was so kind. One of the last times that we saw him, he made this funny comment about how my pants matched my hat. And I guess it's just always going to stick with me because he was so kind and so warm and just such an amazing person to be around. And the impact of his life, just like Dr. May was saying, it extended so far. And so witnessing that was also really amazing. And I guess I want to wrap this up by saying I feel like the theme of the whole UFGA summer was friendship, and just not only like making friends with the community and the little bugs, it's a picture of Megan holding a little caterpillar, and with each other. I know the team, we just had such an amazing time. There were so many things that we did together that I could get into, but maybe another time. And yeah, I'm just so thankful for my experience in the UFGA and the friends we got to make along the way. And I hope that if you're considering applying, that you would do so, because it's such an amazing experience. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Laura, that was amazing. A lot of pictures in there too. I'm going to be focusing more on urban farm and garden alliance and how it is a way of having a way to tangibly use creative reparations in our work to bring social justice. And you may understand that concept differently depending on where you're at and how you believe you can bring about social justice within your own communities. But I believe an experience like this and communities, even small communities like this, can bring about great impact, as you've already heard and witnessed through Life of Bethel chats. All right. So I want to start by telling you in greater detail what UFGA is. Also, shout out to the website that was created. Let me put this into full screen. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry. Okay, now we're in the picture. And so understanding how UFGA works, there are multiple different garden sites and areas within the Rondo community where you can stumble across UFGA members. You can see us digging in the dirt. And I'm going to talk about three main ones that UFGA interns spend a lot of their time at. And yes, please check out the website. Cherie, as well as KP and others, put a lot of energy into making it, and just simply searching Urban Farm and Garden Alliance on Google should bring it up. All right. So if you end up working for UFGA, you will find the persistent uprooting of neighboring plants at Pilgrim Garden, as well as in awe of the church's mini forest. And this would be at the Pilgrim Community Garden. This is a garden that's kind of like in the backyard of church. So it's really cool to see how that church is using their space to give back to the community. They planted a mini forest there when Preston and I had our first summer with UFGA, so 2 summers ago. So it was extra exciting to come back and see how those trees have grown and are continuing to grow. So the mini forest is not looking as many anymore. And it's just exciting to see how time is essential to the growth of something. So as you all look at how you can be growing and learning, just know that it takes time. That's kind of one of the main lessons that I learned from Pilgrim Garden, a garden that we would spend a lot of time at when you didn't exactly know what to do with your time, because you could always find something to be done there. Another garden is the Children's Peace Garden, so the Peace Sanctuary Garden at the top. That's where I really learned the joy of play within a community and like playing with children, meeting them where they're at. Sometimes it wouldn't even be our Wednesdays where we had that structured children's garden event. Sometimes we'd be watering and then the kids would just come up to us. And I'd have to learn to have, as Melvin would say, polyrhythmic time, where I give time that I could be spending, doing the task at hand, but instead spend that time with the community and, be with the kids if they wanted to be with me. and maybe helping them water too. Each kid this year had a little garden pot in the garden that had 3 different plants in it they got to personally water whenever they came home and sick. So that was fun for them. Another garden where we spend a lot of our time is the Victoria Rondo garden. And this is where I learned to appreciate the wisdom and love of others. As Cherie, Megan, and Carrie, but particularly Cherie, poured out her knowledge and her wisdom that she had about gardening, which I might say, oh, gardening, it's not that hard. I had 1 summer of it. Surely I, kind of got it this summer, but no, I still needed reminders on what was what. Cherie, is this a weed? I'm sorry, is this a neighbor? Because we would call the plants that we would be taking care of, even the ones that we have to pull out of the garden, neighbors, because what I'm gonna switch slides to is the fact that we can also look at the neighborhood as nature being our neighbor. So yeah, why am I saying all this? Well, it's because part of neighborhood reparations is understanding the environment in which you're in. So it could be any of those garden sites, even as you may have noticed on the slide before, backyard gardens. There's some people's backyards that we would come in and help them with if they had questions. Not that we would know all the answers, but we'd be willing to help. So yeah, you have to understand the environment in which you're in and who your neighbor is. So moving into this next section, I'm going to explain how, what may sound weird, but nature is actually our neighbor. Think about it. We walk on the earth, we interact with our environment all the time. And it's hard for us to maybe think about it too much, but when we do, when we take time to just touch the earth, to breathe in that clear, crisp air, especially on a cold day, the air is very crisp. Just breathing it in and realizing that nature is there. Nature sometimes required heavy watering from us. Sometimes 3 watering cans per raised bed because it was really dry. And other times it was really wet. So wet that we weren't almost sure what to do that day because it was pouring rain outside. So we would instead spend the day inside planning events. So yeah, nature provided for herself, but also to, make this pickle garden, we had to invest in it. And sometimes investing in that garden was dealing with kind of the stinkier things. We used fish emulsion to help accelerate the growth of our pepper plants because they weren't doing that well. They were kind of yellowing. And Shuri wasn't there to help us, but we remembered her knowledge, wisdom that she shared, that all we needed was like the cap full of fish emulsion, put it in the watering can, and that'll hopefully help their growth. And we saw that it did. So that was really cool to just be there for these young plants and to watch them grow. As you can see, the trellis, that plant that's already climbing it in this very early picture of the pickle garden, that's an aloofa. So I still barely know what an aloofa is. Cherie keeps explaining to me that it's kind of like you can use it as like a sponge in your bathroom, but I don't know. It's cool. It's cool that it grows from seed and it vines. So this picture shows our pride and joy, the pickle garden. We had a vision for the cucumbers, the peppers, the onions. We even had some flowers in there to look pretty. We had a vision for it to become these jars of pickles that we could keep ourselves and that we could maybe use at our National Afternoon Out event, which we planned to. And we had enough to maybe provide some help with that, but community members actually brought enough cucumbers that we didn't need our pickle garden cucumbers to be used. But we can only be here for a summer, so I'm sure this garden while we were gone was helping many people with the numerous cucumbers that came from those vines. So you could maybe look at what I said and think, okay, well, you can kind of use nature as your neighbor, as like a metaphor. Sometimes they need our help, sometimes they don't. The water and the rain. But that's not what I'm saying. I actually do believe that nature is our neighbor and that we should look at it that way. And don't worry, I'm going to get into our actual human neighbors in this next slide. Okay, so understanding our neighbors is kind of hard in our individualistic American society. You may think, what can I do? I'm just one person. Is it really my place to help if help is needed? Is help even needed? I don't know who lives next door. Isn't life about every man or woman for themselves? And I hope that you don't hold this. I hope that this is not your belief that you hold, that life is simply individualistic. I believe that there's so much to be gained from community and investing in that community, and I'm still learning how to do that. So I want to talk about more of a concrete example of how this particular summer I learned about investing in community. And I want to tell a story about Megan Finney and how she stepped out of her comfort zone, used what she had to bring about creative reparations and justice work. And we do the Children's Peace Garden every Wednesday. But this year was different. This year, Megan decided that she would reach out to the JK movement, which is like I think it's a child care rec center, and they would bus kids over to do this event with us. And we're new interns, and we're kind of like, oh, I don't know. Last year was kind of hectic. Preston and I thinking, all the kids, we have enough kids in just the neighborhood. Do we need to bring more kids? And it's a bus system. We don't ever really know how many kids are coming from the movement or when they will come, because the bus could only come at certain times. We were all realizing all the many factors of how it made it inconvenient for us. And yet Megan was persistent that this is something we should do, that we should share with more of a broader community the benefits of the Children's Garden. So let me explain some of the benefits of the Children's Garden. Children come here as kind of like a safe place to play. One of the kids told us when they were kicking a ball around and kind of, not helping so much as we're prepping, like, hey, could you bring that soccer ball somewhere else? And then he goes, actually, I don't have anywhere else to play. This is my place where I can play. And realizing that the Children's Garden provided a safe environment for children to play and interact with nature helped me give more of a deeper appreciation for the small as well as big things that UFGA does. UFGA also, on every Wednesday, has lessons that teach about gardening and how these kids can bring those lessons to their own home, maybe tell their parents what they learned so they can start a backyard garden and provide food for their many impoverished families that they live in. Also, we would provide snacks at the end, which I can't believe I'm even saying snacks because we were taught to always call it a meal. We would bring healthy, nutritious meals at the end of each event because for kids, this was a meal for them. What we had to offer was a meal for them to help support them. So I'm just so excited that I got to see Megan reach out of her comfort zone and bring in the JK movement kids. As you can see, they're very happy to be here. And while we sometimes didn't know when the bus was going to arrive, we welcomed them in. We had to readjust the way that we taught the lessons sometimes and interacted with the garden so that we could split into different groups so that it could use the space the best with the space being so small. All right. So again, just look at this example and think, how can I do that in my own life? How can I impact my community in a way that creates justice reform? And justice reform, you're thinking that's a huge word, that's an enigma of a topic, how can I do that? You can, and it might involve stepping out of your comfort zone. So another story I want to share is the impact of my boss, Melvin Giles, and what he had on the broader community. And it's already been shared a lot because, there's a lot to share. Melvin Giles touched so many communities within St. Paul, as well as in the broader United States and even globally. Melvin passed this summer, and Melvin lived his life proclaiming racial peace. He grew up in Rondo and experienced the racist act of the choice to build I-94 straight through that community. The highway could have been built in other areas, but they deliberately chose to build this highway through the thriving Frogtown and Rondo communities. And that separated the community. Many people were displaced. Some money was lent for them to get a new house, but for others it just wasn't sufficient, and it really destroyed some of that community that Rondo had. Yet Melvin's call for peace is the loudest call for peace that I've ever witnessed. From his purple beard to his purple peace shoes that he always wore to saying bubbles instead of bullets and let peace prevail on earth. He created the St. Paul Community Peace Celebration. He also created peace poles, and these are poles that say may peace prevail on earth in multiple different languages throughout each side of the pole. Now this one may only have 4 sides, but I've seen 6-sided and 8-sided peace poles, and they are all throughout St. Paul, making Minnesota be actually the capital of peace poles in the United States. I looked that up, and I think that's kind of cool that you could have that little fact about us in St. Paul. So I'm just so blessed to have known him. I'm so blessed to see the impact that the community had when they came together and celebrated his life through many impromptu meetings of inviting people into their house who were grieving and learning how to process grief together as a community, which is something valuable to understand. You can grieve in a community of people supporting each other. So Melvin's love for his neighbors, black and white, was that they would grow in peace and love and start making tangible movements of change towards broader equality. And I believe that we can all make tangible movements of change in our lives if you know your neighbor and you learn to serve with peace in what you do. Thank you.
Okay, we're good. Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, my slides aren't as creative as Laura and Megan's. Obviously, they were the 2 creative ones in the group. So, yeah, as Dr. May mentioned, my name is Preston Meyers. I'm a senior here doing history and social work, and this is my 2nd summer with the UFGA. And after the first summer, like this primetime presentation, I really wanted to explore just my gratitude and just appreciation for just a whole different experience. You know, as a suburban kid from the North Metro who didn't really have any experience gardening, it was just a whole different just experience and just unique thing just to do urban gardening in St. Paul of all things. So, but this year I kind of want to take away a few different lessons specifically that I wanted to harp in on the second time through. So the first is kind of a environment / gardening aspect. Obviously part of the job is gardening. So the first thing is obviously the top right picture. It's the traditional American cul-de-sac neighborhood. And this is very common in where I'm from, is Blaine. As you see, the yards are green, full of nothing. And I'll get into this a little later. This is sounding like alarms in my head right now, because this is so horrible for the environment. I'll get into that a little bit later. But first, I want to do a little side note. Dr. May had nominated me for the Newman Civic Fellowship Award. It was such an amazing experience up in Chicago a couple weeks ago, where we just got a bunch of community leaders from all across the country, all different universities, different experiences, and we just had a bunch of workshops and on how we could solve issues in the rural, urban, suburban part of our country. And specifically, we had a specific workshop on environmental policy. Obviously, I picked that one. And the leader of that was one of us. His name was Devin. Super wise, very good at environmental policy. He knows a lot of things that I just had no idea about. So he was leading this, and he talked specifically about just the environmental impact of the traditional American lawn. I knew some of these things, but just how just it devalues the natural beauty of the region by using a ton of water and pesticides to keep it green, and yeah, just to see how dangerous and environmentally impactful this is. And my lesson is why am I talking about this? My lesson for this is to let nature take hold a little bit. Plant a garden in your neighborhood or your house. For me, that was helping my mother a couple of years ago plant a little oak tree in our front yard. And it's gone from this tiny little tree to this 8-9 foot tall tree already, and just putting a couple native Minnesota plants inside our house. And I'm not saying let these dandelions grow 10 feet tall, because the HOA people would not like that at all. So yeah, just let nature take hold. I feel that's the most important thing just that I want you to take away from this. And then obviously this was not planned, but I also want to talk about the pickle garden. Growing your own food it was so fun and rewarding to me. And Obviously, like Laura and Megan mentioned, we got to pick a couple veggies from the local market. Shree obviously paid for this, so I'm very thankful for that. And we got our own little box and put them in, and then, you know, like Laura and Megan said, it was difficult. Like the soil was, respectfully, it was terrible. Stuff was not growing in there. Some of our plants were turning yellow, as mentioned before. Rabbits, of course, they were horrible. But we kept working at it. We put mulch down, cardboard mulch down. We put again, fish emulsion, and just kept trying to take care of it. And after a couple hard weeks, this is just one of the yeast. I don't know if this is the right word to say. We got 5 cucumbers, a bunch of peppers, and we made our own pickles out of it. So, why am I talking about this? I feel like it's just you're getting in touch with nature at that point. Like you don't have to have this massive garden in your yard, but just like for me and my mother, like we bond over like having these tomato plants in our yard. And recently we got our last harvest of tomato plants, and we got like 30 to 40, and it's just this little box in our backyard. So to me, it just feels like you're getting in touch with nature, and I just feel like it's just fun to see like stuff that you planted grow. I feel like it's just so fun to me, it's so enriching. Second thing, just a couple like pieces of advice and just little events that we did that our community members and leaders have talked about. If you were here last year, I talked about my favorite quote, and the thing I take away the most from this experience is being present in community. And again, our beloved Melvin Giles, I talk about this all the time. And so, sorry, not sorry, I'm talking about it again. I think it's just such a good point to talk about in terms of community. Being present really just means surrendering all doubts, all worries, all exterior motivations, and just surrendering yourself to whoever is talking and who you're with. And I feel like this is something I really tried to harp on this previous year. Just not worry about my senior year of college and other things like that going on. Just let the people talk to me. And I feel like that was the most enriching thing for me. I learned so much from just the community members, from the leaders about their life stories, about the history of Rondo, and I just feel like it's just, and for me especially, it's so applicable because I'm in social work, and we talk about building rapport and respect with our clients, and you can't do that if you're worrying about other things, if you're on your phone, you're on your computer, and I feel like that was a big challenge for me, just being present and just not worrying about other things. But I feel like you just get so much out of it by just surrendering yourself and just listening to the community. That was the best thing I will ever gain from this experience. And then obviously to talk about the children's garden a little bit. Megan Finney and Carrie Morgan just did an amazing job at cultivating this little community garden on Aurora Avenue in St. Paul. Again, this is where community kids, neighborhood kids could just come and get their hands dirty. They had their own pots, tomato plants, their own flowers. They could just do a bunch of different things, and of course we had the snacks, which is my favorite part, of course. And the piggyback rides. They love the piggyback rides, and I was one who usually were picked to get the piggyback rides too. So, but I feel like my favorite memory from this is just the little memories I made with the kids, talking about their favorite foods or their favorite just things to do outside of school. I feel like that's what being in community means. Just having these little side conversations with the community members that you're working with or working for. So I feel like that the children's garden was just the cultivation of what it actually means to be in community. So yeah. Do we have any questions or comments? I appreciate y'all being here, and thank you for listening.
So thank you all for your wonderful presentations. Now this is time for Q&A. So does anybody have any questions for our esteemed presenters? And don't be shy. And I will go to you and say, do you have a question? Okay.
So you had your pickle garden. But what the other crops did you grow, and did you pass those out to the community or sell them to the community? What did you do with the produce?
Yeah, okay. So especially with the Victoria Rondo garden, which is one of our larger gardens, the large raised beds that would be along the line of the fence, we would grow all of those crops for the community to take. A lot of that would involve us actually bringing those crops to different events that we had, but Shuri designed particularly the tomato plants to grow in such a way that they would just fall over that fence and anyone coming along and walking could grab them. Victoria Rondo Garden is also designed so that the individual plots inside of the garden, you can get in touch with Shuri and you can have one of those plots for your own if you can prove that you will garden it and take care of it. While we water the community gardens, the individual plots within that community garden are supposed to be watered by the community that owns that plot, and we don't sell them, they're completely free, you just have to come and be ready to garden yourself. So that's one example of how the gardens would give back to the communities. And then the children's garden, yes, all of the food that we'd be growing in there would be used in like different snacks or the meals that we would have, as well as giving extra bounty of what is being harvested to families to take home. I think those are two examples of what we would do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions? Okay, I know I'm going to pick on, sorry. This is a new individual on our campus, but do you have a question for our students?
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were doing the work for the children and what kind of examples of things did you make for them and what kind of comments did they make about them when you tried them? Because I'm sure they tried stuff they didn't necessarily always love. I love kids, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the snacks were so much fun. We got to make different garden themed snacks like every week, and one of the ones that I feel like was particularly memorable was when we made the compost snack, which had like dirt in the form of like cereal and like hay and straw in the form of like pretzels and like gummy worms as like decomposing all this stuff, and that was just like so much fun. Like that one just comes to mind particularly.
They probably liked that.
They did. They loved it. They all wanted the gummy worms, apparently. It's like, this isn't accurate to real compost, you guys. Come on. The comments about the snacks, I feel like they didn't necessarily make, I don't know, to what I can remember. But there was one comment I remember from one of the kids that was just really funny that Megan and I talk about a lot. And it was after we had planted some Swiss chard and a tomato, and it was kind of sprinkling out, and this one kid goes, the salad and the tomato plants are going to drink the water, and they're going to feel so good because the Swiss chard is kind of leafy, and so it looks like salad, and he referred to it as salad, and it was just kind of silly, so yeah.
I guess for stuff they didn't like, one of the first days that the JK Movement kids were there was the compost day. And Megan wanted the kids to actually touch the compost that we were making in the compost bins and like kind of smell it. And some kids were like, ew, like it's dirt or it looks like poop. So, you know, some of them weren't ready for it, but it was good for them to learn.
Okay, any other questions?
So if you were going to talk to another Bethel student and give them a sense that it's not always easy or not always fun, I'm just wondering, like, what kind of advice would you give them to help get through either the difficult times or give them a sense about what kind of problems you might face?
That's a good question.
Okay, well, I can think of something immediately. The giant celebrations that we help plan are really hard, especially for my brain to think about all of the moving pieces that go into getting food donated, making sure we have enough chairs and tents and tables, and the setup and the takedown is also really hard and a lot of work. So I think something that I would say to encourage them would for you to start early with the planning, and to ask for help, because when you actually ask community members to volunteer, they're actually more than willing to help with the setup or the takedown whenever they're available. So just knowing that you don't have to be burdened to do it all yourself.
I can also add one thing, sorry. I guess I can say just like in general, like not even specifically like the UFGA like experience. I feel like you have to do something you love. Like if you really love something, even if like life, because life has its ups and downs. But like if you do something you love, like the downs are like, I guess less bad and they're like more rewarding. So I guess just do something you love and just keep pushing on. I don't know.
Okay, so with that, are we ready to close up? Yep. So I want to thank Preston, Megan, and Laura for your wonderful presentation. But I would also like Megan Finney, Kerry Morgan, and Sharik Waito. Could you stand up, please? We want to thank these individuals who don't get paid for what they do, but they pour into our students year after year after year. And beloved Melvin, thank you so much all for being here. Is that for me?
Yes, for you. Yes, none of this would be happening without all the love and brilliance that you bring to your job, and the perseverance, the patience. We're grateful for everything that you've done and continue to do for us. And so this is a reminder of how much you love Melvin and how much you embody all the beautiful attributes. When we talk about him, we also think of you. So the peace lily and the purple container for it. So you know that you are a living legacy of Melvin's love, and we are so blessed to have you as our partner and mentor and friend.